What's up, my good friends? I am back at you with another video, finally. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about another 5 books that I think are really great for atheists, that atheists will enjoy. And while not necessarily having atheistic thematic subjects or themes of anti-theism, I think they will really resonate with atheists and speak to atheists about what it means to live your life in a secular manner without being a slave to religion. So, roll that intro. The first series I'm going to talk about is UnWind. This has got to be the most underrated science fiction series I've ever read. It's Neal Shusterman. Most people know Neal Shusterman for Scythe, and Scythe was actually on my last video about atheist books, but that was before I had read UnWind, and when I read UnWind, I was blown away by the anti-religion sentiment inside it. So UnWind takes place after the Second American Civil War, which was fought over reproductive rights. Roe versus Wade was overturned and abortion in any form is illegal. But parents, if they have troubled teens, can retroactively abort them by unwinding them, which basically means all their organs are harnessed and put towards someone who needs an organ. So were I to cut my arm off for some reason, I would just get another kid's arm. If I had a heart attack, I would get the heart of a troubled teen. And since there is no abortion, adoption isn't really mentioned, but there is something called storking. You know, when you're a little kid, you might think stork brings babies. Well, what this does is essentially you have a baby and you can just leave it on the doorstep of somebody's house and they are forced to raise it. So that is storking. There is also tithing. If you grew up in religion, I'm sure you know what tithe means. It means to give. Specifically, it normally talks about giving money. But in the UnWind universe, you can tithe your child. So one of our characters is a tithe, who he's 13. As soon as he turns 13, he's taken off to be unwound. And so his family has 10 kids. They give 10% of everything back to the church, and he's their 10th child, so they're giving him away to charity. And it's all because of religion. And there's even a part in the book, in the first book, UnWind. UnWind actually has 4 main books and a short story collection, and the short story collection was actually my favorite. But one thing I absolutely loved in the series was the way this character, the tithe, took storking and was like, storking's in the Bible. And some of the other characters were like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. And he goes, no, Moses was storked, you know? He was sent down the Nile in a basket. And it was so just reminiscent of the way I see a lot of, especially Christians. This is going to mostly focus on anti-Christian themes because a lot of people are a little bit sissy when it comes to criticizing religions that are not Christianity. We won't get into that. But he's like, storking's in the Bible, it's okay. And nothing in the Bible talks about storking. They're just kind of making the situation fit in this nebulous book called the Bible. And I think that's why it's one of the reasons the Bible has stuck around so long and it still resonates with so many people. And that's why I think so many people believe in God, because it can mean whatever the heck you want it to mean. God is real. He's you. That's why he believes what you believe. He looks like you. He loves you. And so, yeah, UnWind, highly recommend. And chances are I'm probably going to do a why you should read UnWind. So it's great. It was originally published in 2007, and so it really flew under the radar. We got around that time, obviously the big dystopian was Hunger Games, Divergent, the selection. It was just all, the Maze Runner, all of that was going on, but we also got UnWind, and I think that was Neal Shusterman's breakout when he finally just showed his creativity in the sci-fi genre. He does have another sci-fi book that came out in like 1999 called Downsiders, which you can kind of see him sort of going towards the UnWind scythe area with that. But basically the way I'm going to describe UnWind is scythe, but more timely, because what was overturned a year ago? We don't need to talk about it. I'm not going to go on a rant. Let's move on. All right, number 2, The Poet X. This is a coming-of-age story about a Dominican American girl in Harlem. And she's very bitter towards her mother, who keeps making her go to confirmation classes. And she's very much questioning religion. And a lot of the book deals with that. And it also deals with the Hispanic culture around religion. You guys know I'm an inner city teacher. Actually, 80% of my students are Hispanic. It's like 80% Hispanic, 20% Black, and then there's like small, just like not even 1% of Asian and white. I think our official number of white children in the school is 7. So yes, most of my students are Hispanic, and they do talk about this a lot. And one thing that came up in this book that I was finally happy to see be talked about was that Hispanic mothers don't let their girls use tampons because only sluts use tampons. Yeah, so that comes up in the book, and I actually had an experience where the woman who shares my classroom was the swim coach for a while, and so that her student could keep swimming, she gave her a tampon, and the mom came down on her like a nuclear bomb. I was happy to see that get talked about. I was happy to see the culture clash between kind of like a secular Gen Z American and her older Dominican parents, and the cultures collide and religion being at the center of that. And we've got a young girl sort of moving away from religion, more so just in the questioning stage of deconversion, and the parents who just really want her to stay in the religion. And she's also got herself a twin brother who is gay. So there's a lot of conflict, and it's actually a novel in verse. And this is the first novel in verse I've ever read other than like the Odyssey. And I was very impressed by how much story was in this novel. Moving on, number 3 is Lonesome Dove. So my hometown is actually where the Lonesome Dove Baptist Church, which inspired Larry McMurtry, may he rest in peace, to write the novel, is located. Yeah. But, funnily enough, this novel does not really go into religion that much. June on the Range is coming up, where a lot of booktubers read Westerns. If you haven't read any Western in your entire life, read Lonesome Dove. If that's the only Western you ever read, make it that one. It also, the miniseries, single-handedly revived the miniseries as a storytelling medium, and Robert Duvall has gone on record to say that Augustus is his favorite character that he's ever played, Gus. So this story is fairly bleak. It's about these two kind of washed up old Texas Rangers who decide to go on a cattle run or a cattle drive up to Montana. And it deals with themes of denial, themes of aging, and it's just such an unromantic portrayal of the Wild West. We've got our traditional cowboys versus Indians. It's basically a space opera, but not in space. And for such a religious time, it never goes into religion. It is able to maintain very grounded, but still very hopeful in the face of all the just horror that these characters face. And when I finished that book, I closed it and basically sat there for 15 minutes wondering what the heck I was going to do with my life. Well, next one, not last one, next one. All right, so you guys are going to think this is kind of weird that I'm recommending this one, but it's actually Left Behind. And that is a Christian book. about the rapture, and I did an Easter special vlog where I read it, so I won't get too far into it. But basically, the Antichrist, who's like a Vladimir Putin clone, is taking over. The rapture happens, and if you don't know, the rapture is where all the believers are called up into heaven, everyone else is left behind on earth. And there's going to be 7 years of tribulation. Jesus is going to come back, and then everybody's like, there's a final judgment. And even though you're not raptured, you still have a chance to come to Christ and go to heaven when you die. So why there's even need for a rapture, I don't know. I don't care. It was a pretty good fantasy novel. And it's also a good glimpse into the mind of someone who's more not fundamental, but comes from more of the Anabaptist tradition, where they very, very much believe in a literal rapture. All Christians believe in that sort of nebulous, oh, Jesus is coming back type of thing, because that's like a basic tenet of the religion. But not all necessarily believe in a literal rapture. The Baptist tradition, the Anabaptists, and Pentecostals and all that trickles off that kind of big tree of them all believing their own little thing, that stems from the Anabaptist tradition. It's a very good glimpse into the mind of someone who believes that stuff. And it falls, in my opinion, halfway between an extreme scare tactic and a torture fantasy of what these people hope happens to atheists. Because in my experience, you watched my video about the troubled teen industry, people from this tradition, this Christian tradition, are really taught to despise atheists. And, I think they hate atheists more than they hate Satanists. They can be pretty hateful towards atheists. So this is a very good glimpse into the mind of somebody who believes that kind of stuff. And it's also very pro-Israel. And all I can say about that is free Palestine. Now we're at the last one, and this is actually the Circle series by Ted Dekker, another Christian series. I read this when I was at the troubled teen industry, and I didn't really pick up on the Christian themes in it because I was 14, and I didn't know it was a Christian book. But it's a really great fantasy series. But whereas Left Behind is kind of a glimpse into the more fundy, literal side of Christianity, I think the Circle is a good glimpse into more the progressive side, but like a devout progressive Christian, kind of like my family. My family was Lutheran. We believed that you're saved by faith alone, which is a big, huge theme in this novel, that God loves you and all you have to do is have faith in him and you're saved. So there are a lot of those themes. So there's our character, Thomas, who, in the world where he's awake, he is being hunted by terrorists, trying to save the world from a virus. And there are some great thriller action sequences in there. Ted Dekker is a really talented writer. He can write. And then he goes into this fantasy land when he's asleep, which is kind of, it's a very traditional fantasy land with beasts. And there are 4 novels. I haven't read the 4th one because it wasn't out yet when I originally read this trilogy. The first is The Birth of Evil. The second is like fighting, and it's kind of like Narnia for grown-ups, but it is very edgy, and I think it's great for adults who are apostates, not necessarily who grew up atheists, but who grew up in that sort of progressive culture and left, so that they can see what they, pardon the pun, left behind. And it's also just really entertaining. So that's going to be it for today. I'm already at about 14 minutes. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you're watching this and you're like, what the heck? There's so many other great ones that you totally left out. Why? Go see my first video. Somewhere. I'll link it. So see my first video, and you guys have a great day. Bye.